Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Strife's Talking Points. I've had a very long weekend, just coming back from that. And come back, and the first story I read is this one here about the Odessa highway shooter. Just gonna get into that real quick. As always, please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, because the way YouTube treats creators these days, if you're not CNN or CBS or one of these major companies, no one will ever see you unless people share it. On this story, this is from USA Today. Gunman in Texas shooting previously failed background check, and here's what we know. I'm actually going to read this story out of order because it's sort of put in here backwards. Apparently the man today, this day, went into his work at a Texas oil field, was fired, and everything spiraled out of control from there. So here we go. FBI Special Agent Christopher Combs said the shooter's home was a very strange residence that reflected his mental state. Odessa Police Chief Michael Gerke said Monday the gunman had been fired the morning of the shooting. Both he and his employer at Journey Oilfield Services called 911 to complain. The shooter called into 911 about what was happening. Apparently he was on his way down pretty quickly and wasn't caught nearly soon enough. But no threats of violence were made. The gunman later called the FBI's tip line. Can't speak to his motives or why he called, Gerke said. Combs described the calls as rambling statements about some of the atrocities that he felt he had gone through. A Texas Department of Public Safety officer was unaware of those events when he pulled the gunman over 15 minutes later for failing to signal a turn. The man fired on the trooper during the stop and sped away, beginning his massacre. So, goes into work, gets fired, becomes apparently unstable enough that both he and his employer called 911 about the incident. The person then calls the FBI tip line, rambling about what had happened to him, how his problems were all, everybody was being unfair and the world was treating him poorly. And then he gets pulled over, fires upon the officer, and then takes off. And that's the beginning of the shooting spree. He was on a long spiral of going down, Combs said. He didn't wake up Saturday morning and go into his company, and then it happened. He went to that company in trouble and had probably been in trouble for a while. This is how the evolving conversations we need to have in our country about mental health issues really needs to take charge. If you watch a lot of the news, if you watch a lot of the stuff out there, you see a lot of the mainstream news is just very much kind of a one-sided story. You can watch mainstream news and you can see them just go after people on and on and on. I've seen this mostly through CNN and MSNBC. There, many years ago, I always thought of it this way. Fox News was trying to sort of goad and scare its people into line, make you fearful of what you had. I remember watching like Glenn Beck and shows like that, thinking, man, these guys are just trying to use scare tactics to get people to fall and believe them. And now, because that worked for their ratings back in the day, now I've kind of seen that more over in the media. Mainstream on all the channels all the time. Just click over to any nightly news and you'll see them trying to evolve some type of emotional reaction, some type of fear, some type of something in your life to make you think that people are against you, that these things will directly harm you, even if they're false and made up stories. Fake news is the big tagline. And now today we look back at this guy here who had apparently a long moving downward spiral, went untreated, went unchecked, and just it evolved into a shooting spree along the highway in Texas. You see here where they're talking about he had failed his background check. And you actually have the Twitter quote here from the Texas Governor Greg Abbott's personal feed. Not only did the Odessa gunman have a criminal history, he had previously failed a gun purchase background check in Texas. And he didn't go through a background check for the gun he used in Odessa. We must keep guns out of criminals' hands. Now, that is something that, again, this just happened Saturday, so the police aren't releasing evidence. The FBI is not releasing anything really upfront to the public about where he got his weapons. They just refer to it as an AR-style weapon. All that means is a small semi-automatic rifle. That's it. That's all it means. AR is a trending term for most people because they have no idea what it means. It's just an Armalite rifle. It's a brand. There are a bunch of different versions of the gun because, of course, it's a company that makes a lot of different weapons. And that's it. That's all they go. From his neighbor, gunman, violent, aggressive person, neighbor says. In an interview with the Associated Press, neighbor Rico Gutierrez said the shooter was a violent, aggressive person. Gutierrez, I can't say his name, said the man would shoot rabbits and other animals at all hours of the night. So he already had this weapon, I'm assuming, before the shooting, probably before anything else. We were afraid of him because you couldn't tell what kind of person he was, because you could tell what kind of person he was just by looking at him. Gutierrez told the agency. He was not nice, he was not friendly, he was not polite. So, if you're shooting rabbits and other animals at all hours of the night, more than likely you do have a rifle. Try and get the distance shot. I've grew up hunting. If you're going to shoot something at night, it's hard to get close enough to it because you can't see as well as an animal can. But anyway, so he had the rifle apparently previously before that, and then of course went into work, was fired on Saturday from his job. He and the company called police, then he called the FBI. Then 15 minutes later, he was pulled over for not signaling, and that set him off. After that, you can go and read these articles yourself about all the people that were shot. They ranged just in age from, I believe, 15 to 57, just shooting people in parked cars up and down the highway as he was racing through. It is a terrible, terrible incident. One of those things where we have got to start taking mental health seriously. If you have a neighbor that's acting crazy or weird or shooting and stuff, you do need to contact authorities so they can run these self-help checks, wellness checks, whatever you want to call them, on these people. You know, don't dial 911 and say, hey, my neighbor's crazy. Just say, call the police, say, hey, my neighbor's been acting weird. He's up late at night shooting in the dark, because most states have laws against poaching. And if you are doing something like that out of season, the police will at least come by, check on you, possibly pull the guns if you're doing these types of activities. So please, as always, take instances like this seriously. If you know anyone like this, if you know anything like this, look into it, research it, find out what you should do. Don't just assume that everything will be all right, because time and time again, we see these people pushed to the edge, they finally break, and then in a chain of incidents, you see it all fall apart. Thank you all for listening. Please like, share, comment. Let me know what you know, or what you think, what you believe. You know, how do you think that something could have changed here? Because apparently, getting pulled over and then immediately starting shooting at the officer and then taking off into a mad shooting spree is a very bad thing. Thank you all for listening. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Have a great day.